Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, Chapter 13, Text 24, page number 592. Everybody have that? 592. Ya eva veti purusham prakritim cha gunai saha savarta vartmano api nasa bhuyo vijayate. Ya evam veti purusham prakritim cha gunai saha savata varmano api nasa bhuyo vijayate. Someone else? Maharaji, word for word. Yaha, anyone who, evam, thus, veti, understands, purusham, the living entity, prakritim, material nature, cha, and gunai, the modes of material nature, taha, with, sarvataha, in all ways, vardmana, being situated, api, in spite of, na, never, saha, he, bhuyaha, again, abhibhyati, takes birth. Everybody here clearly? Is sound is okay? Sound, huh?
Maybe you can lower the microphone.
It's too loud? Now it's okay?
Too quiet.
Be quiet. that better?
Yes.
One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of modes and nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his position. Purport. Clear understanding of material nature. Page number 592. Clear understanding of material nature, the super soul, the individual soul, and their interrelation makes one eligible to become liberated and turn to the spiritual atmosphere without being forced to return to this material nature. This is a result of knowledge. The purpose of knowledge is to understand distinctly that the living entity has, by chance, fallen in this material existence. By his personal endeavor in associating with authorities, saintly persons, and a spiritual master has to understand his position and then revert to spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness by understanding Bhagavad-Gita as it explained by the personality of Godhead. Then it is certain that he will never come again in this material existence. He will be transferred into the spiritual world for a blissful, eternal life of knowledge. Are you finished? Are you finished? Bedtime carpenter. His name is Gangadhar. If you need some wooden shoes, he'll make them for you. Omar Ganantaram Dasha Jananjana Slakaya Sakshulam Tamjena Tasme Shri Guru Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swaya Rupa Kadamayam Danti Swapa Dantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasade Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation once again. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. So Baladev Vidyabhushan says in this regard to this verse speaks about the results of knowledge. The persons who know material qualities make distinctions. No, persons who know the Lord, Prakriti, and the Jiva material nature, which means the gunas, makes distinction between these three, does not take birth again. He still acts to maintain his body and soul, but he's always in a liberated condition. So this is the interrelationship between the Lord, the material nature, and the jiva. Lord Chaitanya left 8 prayers, and he said, Ai Nandan Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishme Udo Kripa Tava Pada Pangaja Tudidili Sunri Vichinchaya. O son of Nanda Maharaj, I am your eternal servitor. That somehow or other I have fallen by my fruitive activities into this horrible ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as an atom at your lotus feet. So this verse, this Shastasaka is also explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the last chapter of Anchalila. And this verse, Lord Chaitanya is praying that he can establish his constitutional position, which means Sambandhan Gyan. So it's saying, I have fallen into this horrible ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean and place me as an atom at your lotus feet. So this is the 3 points here: material nature, the individual soul, and the super soul, and how they interact. Srila Prabhupada, first is verses 20 through 26, deal with Prakriti and Purusha, meaning the enjoyer, the enjoyed and the enjoyer, or the living entity and the Supreme Lord. Now, Srila Prabhupada lectured on this verse in Bombay in 1973, 2 times. And he said that people in this material world don't know what the real problems of life are, and they simply engage in childish activities. And we see that, especially sports. People play so many different sports. When you're a child, you play sports because that's what a child is supposed to do. But when people grow up and play sports, that's not what you're supposed to do. That's still childish. There's no real difference between a child playing some nonsense game and a grown-up man playing some nonsense game, except for they're more expert at it and they get a lot of money for doing it. But it's still a childish activity. So, Devidu Sarakati Hi Vishnu is the real goal of life, which people don't understand or don't even want to understand. In Kali Yuga, it says day by day, men are losing their intelligence to understand anything about spiritual life because they're too sinful. So the material nature is there. It consists of 24 elements, and 25th element is the soul, and 26th element is the super soul. And material nature has 3 modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, there's the material world. There's 2 worlds, the spiritual world and the material world. But those are foolish living entities cannot understand how they accept this body or how they quit this body under the spell of the modes of nature. But the endeavoring transcendentalists can see all this clearly. And so, but those whose minds are not developed, are not engaged in self-realization, cannot understand what is taking place, even if they try to. So this concludes the scientist. Prabhupada always attacked the scientists because they are Maya Prakriti Gyan. Their knowledge is stolen by illusion. They have a poor fund of knowledge. They may have some knowledge of the material world, but they can't understand very much. And they make theories and guesses and give lectures and say perhaps, maybe, and then they get a Nobel Prize. So this is the scientists. And the scientists, they say that there's no life on any other planet, and that they went to the moon and it's a barren desert. But Krishna says that I enter into each planet, by my energy, they stay in orbit. It says I become the moon and supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So we know from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Sukadeva Goswami, from reading the 5th canto, that there's life on every single planet. And that it's foolish to think that there's only life on this planet and there's no life on any other planet. Because it's according to the atmosphere and the chemical makeup of the modes of material nature, earth, water, fire, ether, that people, living entities, can live on different planets all over the universe. That's why fish can live in the water, but we can't. There's a sun god. Krishna says he spoke to Vrindavan, the sun god, 120 million years ago. But he has to have a body suitable for living on the sun planet. So it's according to the body that one receives that he can live in a certain place. So this is the Vedic understanding, Vedic conclusion. Vedic means end of knowledge. So this chapter is all about the obtaining knowledge, the results of knowledge. This verse is the results of knowledge. Knowledge means to know the difference between matter and spirit and the control of both. So even Darwin made one theory, and they teach it in the schools and everything, but he didn't know anything about the soul. So his theory, we can't accept that as truth, because just like if you have a bank balance and you make a mistake on your bank balance at the beginning of the month, then your bank balance is always going to be wrong, until you can get your mistake corrected. So he made his theory, Darwin's theory of evolution, according to the material bodies, the people that are there. But he didn't consider the soul. So his calculation, or his theory, cannot be accepted as a fact. Because we know there are 8,400,000 living entities. There's 900,000 in the water, 200,000 trees and plants, 1,100,000 insects and reptiles, 1 million birds, 3 million beasts, and 400,000 human species. And of all those species, only human beings have the intelligence to make inquiry, tato brahma jignasa, and to try to understand why I'm suffering in the material world. But people are so foolish and so much absorbed in material activities that they can't even understand that they're suffering. Because if you tell young people that you're suffering, they say, I'm not suffering. And if you didn't suffer a little bit, then you couldn't enjoy life. Well, we say, okay, well then, if you don't mind suffering, then go and buy some malaria in the medical shop and take it. So you can suffer a little bit, so you can enjoy more. But most people, they don't accept that. And we know that the living entities subject to the Adhyatmic, Adhidaivic, and Adhibodic, miseries of the body and the mind, miseries of the material nature, and miseries given from other living entities. If we want to sit someplace outside quietly and chant our japa, the flies come. Or sometimes if you eat too much, then you get indigestion. Or the rainy season is coming, or the rain may be raining, too hot, too cold. So all these miseries are always there. So the people are like cats and dogs. Prabhupada always spoke very heavy language. Call them all fools and rascals, because they're only interested in eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And that's what the cats and dogs do. But human beings, if one does not utilize his human form of life to make inquiry and to try to understand why we're here in the material world, or then he's no better than the animals. So to try to understand how we came into the material world is not so important. It's the important thing is try how to get out of the material world. In the spiritual world, it says there's two classes of beings. Those are fallible and those are infallible. In the material world, everyone is fallible, which means you go through 6 changes. You take birth, you grow, you produce offspring, you stay for some time, then you start to decay, dwindle, and vanish. But in the spiritual world, everybody has a body, is Satchitananda, and they're full of knowledge and bliss, and their bodies never change, and they always stay the same. There's no suffering. No one speaks anything harsh words. Everything's chintamani prakamashu kalpaviksha. So there's a distinction between the material world and the spiritual world. But the scientists have no information of the spiritual world. Even there are Vedantists, so many scholars all over the world that read the Vedas, know the Vedas, read Bhagavad-Gita, and still they can't understand anything about the spiritual world. Unless you're a devotee, bhakti mama majanati, unless someone's a devotee, then he can begin to understand because they hear from authority. So we don't accept people who are sinful as authorities. We have to accept the authority from someone who's pure in his consciousness, pure in his eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So devotees in this movement, we are trying to become pure, and we follow 4 principles: no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit sex. The scientists, they don't follow these restrictions. They're womanizers, they're drunkards, they eat meat, and so forth. So their brain is not developed, and it can't be developed enough to understand anything about spiritual life. But Prabhupada established the Bhakti-Vedanta Institute to preach to scientists and to try to make them understand that the Vedic conclusion and Vedic cosmology and that is presenting the real facts. So because living entities have imperfect senses, they make so many instruments to see things, telescopes to see the stars in the sky, but that telescope is made with imperfect senses, so you can't get a perfect vision of what's going on. So we know from Srimad Bhagavatam that this universe, there are innumerable universes. There's one sun and one moon in each universe. And they claim they went to the moon, but the sun is 93 million miles away, and the moon is farther away than the sun, 95 million miles away. But it looks small, it looks closer because it's much bigger. It's twice as big as the sun. But to go to the moon in 3 days, 95 million miles, they would have to go 8 million miles an hour. And there's no such vehicle that can go that fast. And go to the moon and come back without refueling and without getting any reaction from radiation or anything, it's simply foolish. He said today in class, they spend $1 million to make a toilet to go to the moon. So, because there's no gravity. But it's all foolishness, because they can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere unless you have karma. You can't go to any country unless you have a proper visa. You have to have you can't go to any planet without the karma. According to your karma, you take birth and in one place or another, not by mechanical means. So that's the material nature. Now we have the individual soul, Ham Brahmasmi. And this means I'm not this body. But this is not, there's Brahma Meti, Parama Meti, Bhagavaniti, Sabhyate. And there's three levels of realization for the soul. But that's when we come to the Brahma Bhuta platform, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, Nasoshiti Nakanchati, Samasareshu Bhuteshu, Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. This is when spiritual life begins. It's the liberated platform. Then no more lamenting, no more hankering, one is always joyful. How many in this room can say they're always joyful? Raise your hand if you're always joyful. And nobody's on the Brahma Bhuta platform. So, Sambandhan Gyan means developing our understanding relationship with Krishna. Abhideya means understanding. Some people may come to realize they're not this body, but that's not complete. That's only Sambandhan Gyan. Abhideya Gyan means knowing how to serve, perform devotional service. And Parojana means complete perfection. So if you're new here in Vrindavan, you can go to see the deities of Madan Mohan, Govindaji, and Gopinath, which represents Sambandhan Gyan, Abhideya, and Parojana. There are 7 major temples, but those 3 temples you should visit and see the deities. Of course, the deities may not, the original deities are in Jaipur and other places, but the replacement deities are non-different than the original deities. It's called Pratibhu. So, this is we have to understand we're a spirit soul, we're Ham Brahmasmi. I'm not this body. But it doesn't mean we should neglect this body. We should just accept that which is required to maintain body and soul together. And Chaturmasha is coming up, 4 months, the rainy season, when the preachers, sannyasis, didn't travel at that time. They stayed in one place and performed austerities. So in Chaturmasha, some people can take some vrat, make some vow to do certain things. Like you can eat eating once a day, havishan, which means rice and dal with no spices. But you can put ghee, rice and dal with ghee, but no spices. And Bhaktisiddhanta made a vow to chant 10 million names, and he was doing Chaturmasha, and he was only eating rice once a day with ghee. But his health was deteriorating. So his father, Bhaktivinoda, told him to stop that practice. So the austerities are there. We follow Ekadasi. Some people do Nirjala Ekadasi. But if you're sick for 3 days after that, then it's not a good practice. If you can do it, if it doesn't affect your health too much, then you can do it. But otherwise, you shouldn't do it. So we perform austerities. Janmashtami, we fast till midnight. Other days we fast till moonrise or till noon. But these are not so difficult. So austerities shouldn't be so difficult that it affects our health. But it says, Prahlad Maharaj says, someone may sit in the sun surrounded by fire, and someone may stand in cold water up to his neck for a long time. But these things are different kinds of tapasya, performed by different kind of yogis. But if one does not have devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not performing bhakti-yoga, then these things do not have the same result. They'll not get love of God. Simply make their heart hard. So people who are performing austerities that seemingly the benefit, they're not getting the same benefit as the devotees who are performing austerities but not as severe. So in this way, this process of Krishna consciousness is meant to help us to understand that I'm not this body, that I'm a spirit soul. But to understand that, it will take some time. And Lord Kapila Dev says we have to hear on a daily basis for a very, very long time. Nasta prayashu abdeshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. So we have to hear Bhagavatam, hear Bhagavad-Gita, read Prabhupada's books, chant 16 rounds every day, and gradually we will clear away the dirt in the heart. Queen Kunti said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Janaishvara Shruti he says, my Lord, your Lordship can be easily approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who's on the path of progress, trying to improve himself, respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feelings. That's akinchana gochara. One who can only approach the Lord easily by being materially exhausted. So that must be there. If you're still under the modes of material nature, so contaminated by the mode of passion and ignorance, then you can't understand I'm not this body. But gradually, by practicing Krishna consciousness, by chanting a Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya said that this cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years. And so by chanting regularly, we're cleaning the heart. The problem is the heart disease. And if you're chanting every day, but you're not experiencing ecstatic symptoms, which means no tears are coming from your eyes, your hairs are not standing on end, then your heart is steel frame, which means you're still committing offenses, the 10 offenses. You're committing offenses to the holy name. So when Lord Chaitanya went to South India, he went to one temple, and in that temple there was one Brahmin who was sitting there trying to read the Bhagavad-Gita. But he was illiterate, he couldn't read the verses properly, like most of us. But Lord Chaitanya approached him and said, my dear sir, what are you doing here? He said, my spiritual master ordered me to read the entire Bhagavad Gita, 700 slokas every day. So I'm trying to do that. But I'm illiterate and I can't read it properly. But Lord Chaitanya said, well, but I see that you're crying. So why are you crying? He said, because when I understand that Krishna has become the chariot driver for Arjuna, then I become overwhelmed and cry. And Lord Chaitanya embraced him and said, you are the real knower of Bhagavad-Gita. So Krishna says at the end of the Bhagavad-Gita, Sarvadharma Prishtaja, Mamekam Saranamrajam, Ham Svam Tavapavmani Moksha Sharma Sushaha. Just surrender unto me, and I will free you from all sin. Which sounds like an easy thing to do. But this Brahman, he was surrendered, and he understood the Bhagavad-Gita. But it says in the purport that you have to have faith and love to surrender to Krishna. It doesn't come so easily. It doesn't come automatically. And it's not that everything else in the Bhagavad-Gita should be disregarded. We have to, Krishna spoke the Bhagavad-Gita, 700 verses, to bring us to the level of surrender, so we can develop our faith and love. But if you have love for Krishna, you have to know about Krishna. And if you want to love somebody, you have to know that person. So we have to, the Bhagavad Gita is written as it is by Srila Prabhupada to give people an understanding of who Krishna is. Ham Savasya Prabhavo. Krishna says, everything emanates from me. Krishna describes himself in so many places in the Bhagavad Gita. And so he says, Janma karma chmedavyam evam yoveti tattvataha savaktam, what's that? So Arjuna, nantimam eti so Arjuna. It says that one who knows me in truth does not take birth again in this material world. And other places in Bhagavad Gita, there's so many different places in Bhagavad Gita which Krishna is saying how we don't have to take birth again in the material world. He says, Mamupecha punarjanma dukayalam ashasvatam napnu manti mahatmanam samsiddhim param gatim. After taming the great souls, our yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of misery, because they have attained the highest perfection. Brahma Bhuvana Loka, says from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode or Sanakoti never takes birth again. So that's what's being described here, that you don't have to, if you understand the difference between the soul, the material nature, and the inner soul, and the interaction between the super soul, the individual soul, material nature, and super soul, then you don't take birth again in this material world. So, Tadvidi paripraptena paripraseva sevaya upidekyanti ke jnanas janastapa darshanaha. So the process to become detached from the material world is to accept Guru. So, we have to abide by Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. The Guru gives us the Shastra, and the Sadhu, saintly persons, like the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, wrote many books on the science of devotional service. One is Rupa Goswami wrote Nectar Devotion. In Nectar Devotion, it says, Prabhupada quoted this verse from Nectar Devotion. I can find it. Iha yasha hari deshnashe karmana manasa gira nikila api avasta so su jiva mukta se uchite. One who engages in transcendental service to the Lord in body, mind, and words is to be considered liberated in all conditions of material existence. So we can become liberated from material existence and by performing the process of devotional service. The devotional service begins with faith, shraddha. Then we associate with devotees. Then bhajana kriya, accept initiation. And then anartha. After initiation, we come to anartha nivritti. which means we follow the four regular principles and give up all unwanted things. And then from anartha nivritti, there's nistha, firm faith. Then there's ruchi, asakti, and then bhava and prema. So anartha nivritti, and nistha, firm faith, and ruchi means we have a taste. Asakti means we have attachment to the Lord. And it says to attain pure devotional service, there's one price one must pay, and that is called loyam, or greed. So people are greedy for money, greedy for so many material things, but to be greedy for Krishna, that is a different kind of greed. And the gopis had that greed for Krishna. The gopis had love for Krishna. One time, Krishna had a headache, and he told Narada Muni to give some, I need the feet dust from a devotee to cure my headache. So Narada Muni said, well, I'm not going to give you my feet dust, because I'll have to go to hell. Then he went to the queens in Dwarka, said, Krishna has a headache, we need your feet dust. And they also refused. They said, well, we can't give our feet dust, then we'll go to hell. But then he went to the gopis in Vrindavan and said, Krishna has a headache, we need your feet dust. And they said, well, if Krishna has a headache and needs our feet dust, then you take as much as you want. And then he said, but you may have to go to hell for this. And they said, we don't care. Whatever pleases Krishna, whatever is pleasing to Krishna, that's what we want. We want to satisfy Krishna in all respects. We don't care if there's going to be any reaction. So this is pure bhakti, pure devotional service, which was glorified by Lord Chaitanya in Madhurya Bhav, the highest form of devotional service. It says, Savai Pumsam Parodamo Yavo Bhakti Hoksaje Haitiki Pratiyata Yenatma Suprasidati. So devotional service should be performed unmotivated, uninterrupted. So the gopis had no motivation. When they went to see Krishna, they performed Ras Lila. There was not a tinge of material sense gratification or sex desire, sex life as we know it. They were only concerned about pleasing Krishna. They left their families, they left everything in the dead of night, which means midnight, because when they heard Krishna play his flute, to come and join Krishna, to satisfy Krishna. They didn't care about any social convention. And according to Vedic culture, if a woman leaves the house and goes to another man, then she can't be accepted again. So Lord Ramachandra, he also played the role of an ideal king. When Mother Sita was captured by Ravana, he went to Lanka and brought back Sita. But he brought back the illusory Sita, because the real Sita was the goddess of fortune, could not be touched by any other man, especially Ravana or any demon. So he took the illusory Sita and tested her by putting her in the fire, and out came the real Sita. But when Lord Ramachandra went incognito to find out what the citizens were thinking about him as the king, when he heard one washerman who was told his wife that I will not accept you anymore because you went to another man's house. I'm not like that henpecked Ram who accepted Sita back after being kidnapped by Ravana. Of course, he didn't know that it was illusory Sita. So Lord Ramachandra had to send Sita to the forest to be taken care of by Valmiki Muni. And then he observed celibacy for 13,000 years. So this is the highest level, bhava, prema pumartha mohan. Most people are interested in dharma, artha, kama, moksha. they want religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But in Kali Yuga, people don't know anything about liberation. They just want to they practice some religion to get some sense, economic development, so they can have sense gratification. But those are the four Vargas. But the fifth goal, and real goal of life, Prema Pumartha Mohan, that's the real goal of life. And Bill Mangal Thakur says, for those who are liberated souls, those who are pure devotees, when they go back to Godhead, liberation and the four Vargas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, stand with folded hands at their lotus feet. So, this is what's being discussed here, that with the individual soul and the super soul and the material nature, how they interact, and to understand this, then one does not have to take birth again. So in other words, it's the matter of becoming detached. Detachment is required. And that's described in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, that the material world is like a banyan tree. It says roots upward, branches down, leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. And the real form of this tree cannot be understood in this world. But with determination, one must cut down this tree with the weapon of detachment, and that way attain that place which, having once gone, one never returns, and surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It also says that abode of mind is not illuminated by the sun, nor the moon, nor fire. One who goes there never comes back. So in this way, there's so many examples in the Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, of people, of great souls who were detached from material existence and who became qualified to become pure devotees and go back to Godhead. So we should always remember this, that we're in this material world. It's not a nice place. We don't want to stay here any longer than we have to, and we should try our best to perfect our lives by becoming Krishna conscious and go back home, back to Godhead, and not take birth again. So I will stop there. Anybody has any questions, comments?
As you are explaining that Brahmana, he was eating Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, he was just observing that Krishna is become a chariot driver. He was just observing and tears coming out of his eyes, saying that Krishna is become a chariot driver of Arjuna. His tears was coming just to, when he did not open Gita, he was just seeing and...
No, he was trying to read the verses. He was illiterate, but he could read the verses, but he couldn't read them properly. He wasn't a Sanskrit scholar. He wasn't just looking at the book. He was trying to read the book. It was the order of his Guru Maharaj to read all the 700 verses of Bhagavad-Gita every day. So he was trying to do that, but he couldn't do it properly. So the other Brahmins in that temple were laughing at him. But Mahaprabhu, when Mahaprabhu came to him, he can understand that Mahaprabhu didn't come there to mock him or make fun of him. But then Mahaprabhu asked him why he was crying, and he said, because I understand that Krishna has become the chariot driver of Arjuna. So he had love for God, love for Krishna. That's why he was crying. That Krishna would take a subordinate position, even though he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He wasn't just looking at the book, he was trying to read the verses, because it was the order of his Guru Maharaj. The order of the Guru Maharaj is like the thunderbolt, should not be transgressed. It's the third offense to the chanting the holy name. One should not disobey the orders of the spiritual master. So someone Prabhupada ordered one devotee who was the best book distributor in the one temple to become the head pujari. And the devotee said to Prabhupada, no, I don't want to be the head pujari. And the Prabhupada's servant told the devotee that you never say no to your spiritual master. If the spiritual master gives you an order, you say, yes, sir, and you try to carry it out. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was having trouble with the temple presidents, and they went to Prabhupada, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj said to Prabhupada, well then, you might as well just send me to China. So, the next day, Prabhupada called Tamal Krishna Maharaj and said, you go to China. And he said, but Prabhupada, I was just joking. And he said, no, you don't joke with your spiritual master. Either you sit down here, and in Mayapur, you have no more service. I want you to go to China. So that was the order to the spiritual master. So he did go to China, and with great difficulty, but they did have some success. And now the preaching is going on in China in a more regular way. So that was the Brahmin. He was given the order of his spiritual master. He took it as his life and soul. So whatever the spiritual master orders, we should take as our life and soul.
One more question. Oh, just like you said, there are 7 temples. We should take darshan of the different temples. I want to ask you, what is the difference between Radha Shyam Sundar and all those 7 temples?
What's the difference?
Yeah, between these 7 temples and Radha Shyam Sundar. If you're taking darshan of Radha Shyam Sundar, is okay, or you have to visit these all 7 temples? And what is the difference between those 7 temples?
There's no difference. But those 7 temples were established by the Goswamis, and by visiting it's part of Vrindavan. It's like we should visit the 12 forests. And as pilgrims, when people come to Vrindavan, pilgrims should visit all these places at least one time. So we should also visit all these places. The 12 forests, all different temples, different places, different holy places. So these are there's a holy dham, it's part of the holy dham. But Prabhupada also said everything's here in Krishna Bala Mandir and all in the 4 walls, so you don't need to go anywhere else. So you don't need to visit those places. But they represent Sambandhan, Jnana, Abhidaya, and Parojana. And we like to visit other temples. It gives you get pleasure by doing that, don't we? We get pleasure because we like to visit other temples. But it's the day of our worshipful deity is Radha Shyama Sundar here. That doesn't mean we can't go to other temples. But only Radha Krishna temples, not demigod temples. We don't worship demigods. We only worship Radha Krishna, Gauranitai, Jagannath, Subhadra, Baladev, different forms of the Vishnu Tattva.
Mind is getting the pleasure, or the soul is getting the pleasure?
What?
The mind is getting pleasure, or soul is getting the pleasure? By visiting the temples, the soul is getting pleasure, or mind is getting the pleasure?
In your case, it's your mind. Everybody else, it's the soul. The soul is Satchidananda by nature. The Krishna consciousness is meant to awaken this ananda, this bliss, comes from the soul. Without the soul, there's no question of having a mind. If there's no soul in the body, if the body's dead, there's no mind. So the soul, everything emanates from the soul. The soul is the source of all consciousness. All right. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki, Bhagavad-Gita ki.